Hey guys, Mr. P. In this video we're going to talk about water movement and osmosis. We are going to focus on the first four objectives of topic D 2.3, which is water potential. These topics specifically say D 2.3.1, solvation with water as a solvent. It's going to include hydrogen bond formation between solute and water molecules and attractions between both positively and negatively charged ions and polar water molecules. D 2.3.2 is going to talk about water movement from less concentrated to more concentrated solutions. Specifically, students should express the direction of movement in terms of solute concentration, not the water concentration. Students should use the terms hypertonic, hypotonic, and isotonic to compare concentrations of solutes. D 2.3.3 is water movement by osmosis into or out of the cell. It can happen in both directions. Students should be able to predict the direction of net movement of water if the environment of a cell is hypotonic or hypertonic. They should understand that in an isotonic environment there is a dynamic equilibrium rather than no movement of water, which means the movement of water never stops. The dynamic equilibrium is the movement or an equal movement of water molecules in both directions. We're going to finish the video off specifically talking about D2.3.4, which is changes due to water movement in plant tissues bathed in hypotonic and those bathed in hypertonic solutions. And this is going to manifest itself in a lab situation within class, but there is a particular application of a particular skill, and you are going to be able to, or should be able to, measure the changes in tissue length and mass and analyze data to deduce isotonic solute concentrations. Again, we're going to do that in a lab, but this particular video sets you up and provides you the foundation for the information needed to conduct that lab in a productive manner. So we're going to start the video off with the structure of a water molecule. And I know that we've had past videos that outline the structure of a water molecule, but we're going to do it again just for the sake of reviewing for this particular video. We know that a water molecule is polar, meaning it has an unequal distribution of charges. In fact, the oxygen side is slightly negative and the hydrogen side is slightly positive. And because we have these unequal distribution of charges, or a positive end and a negative end, it gives rise to polarity. And polarity is going to be important, or an important component of water, as we move into the properties of water. So water molecules form, because they're polar, large numbers of weak hydrogen bonds seen on this diagram in those dotted lines. Every single one of these dotted lines is a hydrogen bond. The water molecules between them can form these hydrogen bonds, but it's important to note that while individual water molecules can form a few hydrogen bonds each, collectively, as we increase the number of these hydrogen bonds, it actually creates a pretty strong interaction among all the water molecules in a particular solution or in a particular sample, and it gives rise to a lot of the unique properties of water that are outlined in our Properties of Water video, like solvation or solvent. Water is the universal solvent. Cohesion, adhesion. Remember, cohesion and adhesion is the ability of water molecules to form bonds with either water or non-water substances. Water has other properties like surface tension, high specific heat capacity. All of these things are due to those hydrogen bonds, result from those hydrogen bonds, and are directly related to the water molecule being polar in the first place. So if we talk specifically about solvation, remember, solvation is the idea that it can be used as a solvent, and we need to know kind of some vocab. And so a solution, which can be seen over here, is when you have a mixture, homogeneous mixture, of a solvent and a solute. And so there would be a solvent. We know that in this case the solvent is water. It's what does the dissolving. And we have a solute, which is what is dissolved. And so if we put salt, sodium chloride, NaCl, into a solution or into a sample of water, we know that the salt will actually dissolve. And when dissolved, it creates a solution, and the solution is homogeneous, which means it is uniform throughout the entire solution. And so what is actually happening at the molecular level when a solvent meets a solute? In this case, because NaCl is ionically bonded, meaning bonded between two ions, we have a negative chlorine ion. and we have a positive sodium ion, meaning sodium gave up one of its electrons and became positively charged, and chlorine gained that electron, and so it became negatively charged. And when we start to put charges on these particular atoms or these particular ions, they are going to interact with the corresponding opposite charge of the water molecule. And so because the water molecule has a partial negative end and partial positive end, the partial negative end is going to interact with the positively charged ion, opposites attract, and it's going to form those hydrogen bonds between the unequal charges. Now the other ion, chlorine minus, or the negative chlorine atom, is actually going to form these hydrogen bonds with the hydrogen side, because the hydrogen side, again, is partially positive. So unequal distribution of charges in our water molecule allows water to be a really good solvent because it has both positively and negatively charged poles, which means it can interact with both negatively and positively charged portions of a polar molecule. So polar substances such as salts, alcohols, acids are going to readily dissolve in water because they are polar. They have positive and negative ends. And so that leads to this idea of solvation, which is the interaction of a solvent with the dissolved solute that creates the homogeneous mixture or a homogeneous solution. And the particles of a solute separate from each other. Notice that they were in this really solid, dense crystalline structure. And as the water molecules interacted with them, it begins to break the bonds between them within the solid and will form the bonds with the water. And so these ions that were part of this solid structure are actually going to separate from each other and are going to be held in a mixture with the water. The water particles are going to separate from each other as well, again because they're being held away from other water molecules by the solute itself. And the separated solute and water particles combine to make a solution, again homogeneous, meaning it is uniform in mixture. Nonpolar substances such as fats and oils are not going to dissolve in water, and that's because, again, they are nonpolar. And so things like oils, vegetable oil, if you were to put vegetable oil in water, you know that it would stay as a separate layer. If you were to mix it up, it would mix, but it would stay in little balls or little spherules of oil, and then would eventually rise back to the top. Water is not going to actually dissolve the oil. So, if we talk about some more vocab and focus on solute concentrations and how that pertains to water movement, we have both solvent and solute, and notice that we have solvent and solute in different concentrations on this particular diagram. And so if the solvent and solute are in equal concentrations, it's said to be isotonic. If there is more solute than solvent, you're going to have a term called hypertonic, and hyper means more. And if you have less solute than you have solvent, then it's going to be called hypotonic, and hypo is a prefix that means lower. These are not just terms that are going to be used in a single solution. They're also going to be terms that are used to compare two different solutions that are separated usually by a semi-permeable membrane, like the cell membrane. And so if we focus on an example of this actually using osmotic terms, we have a semi-permeable membrane, which is separating two solutions of differing solute concentrations. Notice that the red dots are the solutes, the blue solution would be the water, the solvent in this case. And so the left side of this diagram is going to have lower solute, which means higher solvent, than the right side. The right side has higher solute and therefore lower solvent. The volume of the container is the same, so if the volume is the same but it has more solute particles, it's going to be more highly concentrated and therefore have a lower water concentration. Water is going to move in the direction of high water concentration to low water concentration, which means it's going to move from low solute concentration to high solute concentration. And the reason it does that is because it is trying to reach equilibrium, which in osmotic terms is isotonic. Okay? So isotonicity is reached when the two sides have equal solute concentrations. Notice they don't have to have equal volume, and in fact they don't. If the water from the left side moves through the semi-permeable membrane and the solute can't, notice the solute particles are too big to move through these actual small gaps. They're going to move from an area of low to high solute concentration and therefore will shift the volume to reach isotonicity, which is an isotonic point. Now, again, if we focus on a slightly different example, and we utilize an example of red blood cells, if we have an environment on this screen, the environment, that has a 10% NaCl solution, 10% salt, and we have a red blood cell that, let's say, contains a 2% solute concentration. Therefore, the concentration of our solvent, if there was nothing else, would be 90% water. Inside, if there was nothing else, it would be 98% water. Cell, which is 2% solute and 98% water, has a lower solute concentration and a therefore higher solvent concentration. It's going to be said to be hypotonic in comparison to the environment, which is said to be hyper because it has a higher solute concentration and lower water concentration comparatively. If water moves hypo to hyper, or low solute to high solute, water in this case is going to move out of this cell, causing the cell to shrivel up, lose water, dehydrate, which is incredibly bad for your red blood cells and any of your tissue cells. Again, this picture shows what just transpired in that actual diagram. If you put red blood cells into a hypertonic solution, they're going to lose water. If you place them in a hypotonic solution, they're actually going to gain water and in some cases can actually swell. And if you place them in an isotonic, meaning it's the same concentration of solute and solvent, there's going to be this dynamic equilibrium that we talked about in the objective. Dynamic equilibrium means the net movement of water stops. However, the actual movement of water doesn't stop. You have one water molecule that will move in to every one water molecule that will move out. And if they move in and out in equal concentrations, you're going to end up having the same concentration on both inside and outside of the cell. That's it for this particular video. We will further our understanding of water potential in the next video. If you learned something, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.